Heyo, and welcome to OmniDog's Vault. Hello, OmniDogs and OmniKittens. We are live, and by we, I mean me and my fabulous co-host, Taylor Brown. How's it going, Taylor?
I'm doing great. I'm just a little under the weather, so if my voice sounds really deep and weird, that's the reason why. I'm not trying to talk like this for effect.
My wife likes it when I'm sick like that because my voice gets deep and gravelly like Batman's.
Well, maybe this will give my voice more gravitas and more depth to it, so people will listen to my opinions even more. Who knows?
Yeah, perhaps.
Probably not.
So we're waiting for Lou, and while we're waiting for Lou, we can talk about how awesome my sweater is. Thank you.
It is awesome. I'm jealous.
We're going to an outdoor event at 4 o'clock, and we don't know what it is yet. My wife is not telling my daughter nor myself what it is. She's just saying it's outdoors, and it's about 40 degrees out.
That could go either way.
I'm going to take all my cold weather stuff.
Well, that can go either way. It could be really great or it could be not so great. You never know. But it's pretty nice up here in Pittsburgh, even though it's only like 45 degrees, which means it's probably nicer down in your neck of the woods.
It is sunny, so we've got that going for us. But 4 o'clock is right on the edge of evening.
That's true.
It's going to be cold. I'm going to take a jacket, earmuffs, and a scarf, and a hat, and snowsuit, and mittens, and
snowsuit,
and gloves. So I've only got a pair of jeans on. I really don't have like a flannel lined pair of jeans. That's what I really need.
I'm just picturing you walking around like Ralphie in Christmas Story, just like this, in your snowsuit.
Yeah.
Do you watch that marathon on TBS?
Christmas Day? Plus, I own the movie, so we've seen it.
Okay.
150 times like everybody else has.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I've only seen it all the way through once, and I always catch it in bits and pieces on TBS throughout the years. It's on all day, 24 hours. So I think I usually just watch it in like 10-minute chunks on Christmas Day.
I think all three of us have it memorized to the point more of any other movie that, more than my favorite movies, Big Lebowski and Napoleon Dynamite. I think we've got Christmas Story from beginning to end more memorized than any other movie because we've seen it so many times.
Well, since Lou's not here yet, what are your top 3 favorite Christmas movies that you have to watch every year?
Christmas Story, Elf.
Yeah.
We love Elf. Patty watched it without me last night because I was sick, but that's fine. I'll catch it at some point. Let's see. The other movie is, I feel like it used to be It's a Wonderful Life.
I've only seen that once. Back when I was younger.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I saw that a lot more times when I was younger than now. But what's another third must watch?
For me, it's Christmas Vacation.
Okay. That's a classic.
Home Alone.
Oh, okay.
And Elf. I have to watch all 3 of those movies to have it really feel like Christmas.
Right.
We watched Elf last night with some of my family members. That was fun. And Kate and my wife and I watched Home Alone and Home Alone 2 on Disney Plus last week.
Have you ever seen the meme where it says that Kevin at any point could have called 911?
Oh, yeah.
And he was reveling in the killing and destruction that he was doing of the 2 guys.
Both movies really don't make a lot of sense, but it is what it is. And I was watching a new show on Netflix. Did you ever watch the Toys That Made Us?
Yeah.
They have a new show called The Movies That Made Us. And they do Home Alone, they do Die Hard, and Ghostbusters. And they do Dirty Dancing, but I'm not really interested in that movie, so I skipped that episode. But the Home Alone one was fascinating. That was a great episode, learning more about how that movie was made.
A lot of people think of Die Hard as a Christmas movie. I see Tim Klein has it in there. 8 Crazy Nights, I'm not familiar with.
8 Crazy Nights is an Adam Sandler animated movie about Hanukkah.
Oh, okay.
That was like back in 2000. I do think Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and so is Die Hard 2, because that's set around Christmas as well. I don't watch it every year at Christmas, but it definitely is a Christmas movie.
And then Scrooged, which of course I think is a good movie, but I don't consider it something I have to see. But I think the third one would have to be the old Rudolph claymation, as the collector says. That is something I grew up on as a little kid, and it still holds up to me. I love the songs. I know this whole thing by heart, like I know Christmas Story by heart, and it's an hour long. So I think it's considered a movie.
Charlie Brown Christmas also.
That is also something I have to watch.
My favorite claymation Christmas movie is The Year Without a Santa Claus with
I don't know that one.
Snow Miser and Heat Miser. You know that.
I don't know that one.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no. Don't add that to the list, please.
No, I'm not going to force you to watch it. I just thought that came out back in the 50s and 60s when you were a young pup. So I thought you would.
What's it called?
The Year Without a Santa Claus, where Santa is sick and he can't fulfill his Santa Claus duties. And so his elves have to go out and try to, I forget what the main plot is, but they encounter a guy named Snow Miser and his brother Heat Miser. You never seen that? That's crazy to me. I would assume you watched that growing up.
Is it a claymation movie?
Yeah, it's a claymation movie. It's like the same Santa as Rudolph.
Okay, say the name again.
The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Year Without a Santa Claus.
That's my favorite claymation movie, like a Christmas special one.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? My name is Snow Miser. Wow.
I don't know it. Are you sure it came out early?
Let's ask Lou when he gets here.
What's up?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I have a question to ask you. Jess and I are talking about claymation Christmas movies, and he's never heard of The Year Without a Santa Claus. Have you ever seen that?
Is that the Heat Miser, Snow Miser?
Yes. Jess has no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah. My name is Snow Miser. Whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna watch that tonight. I'm gonna come home and watch it tonight.
You have to, Jess. That's a classic claymation Christmas movie.
The Year Without Santa Claus. I've never seen it.
You've never seen any of those? Like the classic claymation ones?
Oh,
Joe Chip is in with the information. He says it came out in 1974. So you were what, like 14?
I was 15.
Then? Okay, so maybe it was a little bit after your time, but I mean, I was born in 1990. So what's your excuse?
I was 15 and I hated everything.
Oh yeah, that's true. But Jess, you definitely got you and your family should watch it after your outdoor excursion, whatever it is.
Okay. Year Without Santa Claus. Okay, yeah, cool.
Well, Lou, we were talking about our top 3 Christmas movies that we have to watch every year for Christmas. What's that for you?
Yeah, what are your 3?
Die Hard.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
Of course, Die Hard has to be on there. Lethal Weapon.
Ooh.
Lethal Weapon's a Christmas movie?
Yeah, it's a Christmas.
It's a Christmas movie.
I actually like Lethal Weapon more than Die Hard.
You know, me too.
One.
I'm a Shane Black fan, so yeah, I'm big on the Lethal Weapon. And number 3 is, it has to be a Christmas movie, right? It can't be a movie that I watch every year around Christmas time.
Well, what is that movie?
Well, I have a
Debbie Does Santa Claus or something?
It's just the Wonder Woman scene with the little girl on Endless Loop. It's what he watches every year.
No, I have a tradition where I watch Seven Samurai every year.
Why?
It's my favorite film. My favorite film of all time. And I kick off the new year with that.
You kick off the new year with it. Okay, this is the original Kurosawa or whatever?
Yes.
And do you own it? 4K, high def, Blu-ray, HD?
There's no 4K of it yet. There's a Criterion collection of it that I recommend everybody pick up.
Okay.
I definitely couldn't have guessed that in a million years.
No, there's no way. How about with something Christmassy in it? What's the third one?
Home Alone.
Okay, just like Taylor.
Home Alone.
I think we were born around the same time, so that has to be our answer.
89 for me. So yeah.
90. Yeah.
Okay. How old were you guys when Home Alone came out?
I was like 2 or 3 months old.
Oh, it came out in 1990?
Yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I would have thought much later than that.
Nope, 1990, and the second one was 92, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the one was 92. Yeah, it was around that time.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 from River.
That's a good movie.
I have the Star Wars Holiday Special on order, and I will be getting it not in time for Christmas, but in time to maybe pull my daughter out of the deep, dark depression she's in from Rise of the Skywalkers. Whatever.
Just listening to Everybody Hurts on an endless loop right now.
What's that?
She is in her apartment listening to Everybody Hurts, Everybody Cries right now on an endless loop.
Everybody hurts.
I feel bad for her. That sucks.
Yeah,
I walked out disappointed, but I wasn't crushed or anything.
Same.
Well, same with me. But she's of an age, well, she's your guys' age, where she's way into fanfic. And so she's got a group of nerds where she runs a fan fiction page and it used to be all about Game of Thrones, but that disappointed her so much.
And they crap the bed too.
Done with it.
That was my biggest nerd disappointment of my life.
I think same with my daughter.
Star Wars has disappointed me a lot over the years, so I'm used to it. Game of Thrones was excellent. And all of a sudden, last season, they're like, who cares anymore? Let's just do whatever we want and leave.
So she and her girlfriends work each other up into a frenzy as to what the movie's going to be and what it has to be to please them. And the ending wasn't what she wanted in the way she wanted it. And so she's in a dark hole right now.
Poor thing.
She's coming over, and I hope that she's going to be fun this afternoon because she was very silent on the drive home.
You know how you can cheer her up, Jess?
Huh?
Year without a Santa Claus. Nothing makes you feel better like Snow Miser and Heat Miser.
Okay. Oh, now Mr. Awesome. This is right after my own heart. Watch Bob Hope shows on YouTube and Jack Benny Christmas episodes. That's great. I love old Bob Hope shows and Jack Benny. Good for you, Mr. Awesome, if you're serious.
I don't remember. I don't even know. No, I don't remember Bob Hope.
Never seen anything from him.
Jess, you see, oh, well, he's way before your guys' time. Same with
Noelle on Disney Plus. My wife watched that, and I was kind of in and out. That movie was terrible. With Anna
Kendrick, she's awesome.
The movie was awful, like purely awful. And my wife didn't enjoy it either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I could see Anna Kendrick in anything.
Bill Hader was in it too. I love Bill Hader.
Oh, don't say that. That's disappointing. I love Bill Hader.
And he was a waste of talent in that movie.
Klaus was good. It's on Netflix.
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
You would like that, Jess. It's an animated movie based on like the origin of Santa Claus.
Based on
the original story, or I don't know. It's based on maybe on an old like legend about Santa, but it's like a original movie, I think.
No.
It's not based on Grant Morrison's comic or anything.
Oh, that's what I was wondering.
No, it's on Netflix. Yeah, we enjoyed that, but Noelle was no good.
Oh, that is a bummer. I love Anna Kendricks. Okay, so all three of us are here to talk about what we were waiting for all week to talk about.
Star Wars. No.
Watchmen, the television show. And I'm sort of denigrating it by just saying the television show. It's Watchmen, the greatest TV show ever in the history of my watching TV. Unless I can think of something, I'm trying to think of something as a young man growing up that I liked even more. But I mean, for 9 episodes, this was 9 to me. This is my opinion only. This is 9 of the best. Each episode was absolutely full on, max on, top of the line, excellent writing, acting, story, plot, character driven, made me feel emotionally connected to the characters. And for the first time in my life, I told Lou this earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago, for the first time in my life, after 60 years on this earth, made me feel genuine white guilt. And I'm not saying that as a throwaway funny line. I mean, I have a lot. You think it's easy being a white person in this country? Let me tell you.
Yes, I do.
There we go. I grew up, just as background on me, I grew up in a completely white little town in California. If there were any black guys in my school, they were imported from someplace else and given a chance at, it was called A Better Chance, the ABC house. They lived in the ABC house and they came to our school. There's like 5 or 6 of them. They're only there a couple of years, but it was like taking Bay Area kids that needed a change of scenery, that had the potential to be really good students. We like imported our black guys. Okay, I'm just being honest. That's how white my upbringing was. Carmel, California is still the whitest community of white communities. Up until 1960, my dad said there used to be a sign on the outer limits of the town. 1960. With a word that you shouldn't use, saying, don't be here when the sun sets.
Yeah.
That's in California. 1960. So I grew up, you were looking at white privilege right here. I'm on the air admitting I totally get it. White privilege. Totally understand. That's the emotional impact this television show had on me. It was so powerful and so amazing and so well done. It made me feel like the senator in it who said, it's not easy being a white man in today's America, or whatever he said. And by the way, we're going to be, I know they're imported. They were. The people are making fun of me in the chat. So this TV show had a super huge emotional impact on me, where I've just gravitated from little white enclaves to other white enclaves, and I see people on the outer edges of my little world that aren't the same as me, and I get along. I get along fine with everybody. I don't have any, especially since I've been in AA. Some of the character defects are that you're supposed to work on are, prejudice, bigotry, things like that. You need to get rid of them. So I've prayed for those to be lifted from me. For the most part, I think I get along well with everybody. If everybody's nice to me, I'm nice back to them. That's really my only tenet in life. Nice to me, I'm nice to you. If I'm nice to you, you need to be nice to me back.
Unless it's Tyler Blunt.
What's that?
Unless it's Tyler Blunt, then all bets are off.
Yeah, right.
Did you guys get a Christmas card for him? Because I did.
Fuck no, I didn't. And I'm so frosted about it.
I just did a show with him 3 weeks ago and I got nothing. What a jerk.
I just did a show with him 3 days ago. I didn't get anything from him.
You're like his best friend, Jess. Why wouldn't you get one?
I'm gonna have to send you a picture of this Christmas
Oh, we
card.
saw
Oh
it.
yeah,
On
that's the
Facebook.
only way I'm going to see it.
It's on Facebook, Jess. Didn't you see it?
Yeah, I did see it.
So you've seen it. You just haven't had it in your hands because apparently you're not good enough friends with him.
Yeah. Now here's an interesting comment. I am not white myself and a little tired of white guilt, honestly. So Joe Chip, can you elaborate on that? What is it about white guilt that you're tired of? You're not white yourself. Do you feel like it's a cop-out? Do you feel like that I should be getting over myself? What do your where's that comment come from? Because this I had never seen. We can start at the first episode. We might as well start at the first episode. They certainly didn't teach me about Tulsa, Oklahoma in high school. I never knew about the Tulsa riots in 1921.
I never heard about it either.
College. That was the first time I heard about it.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
well, first let's acknowledge something great. Thanks for turning me on to Echo and the Bunnymen, the greatest group ever. I don't have any guilt about that. Thank you, Tim Klein. I'm happy. So the Tulsa riots, this show starts out very brutally. And are we going to give an overview and then spoil it?
Yeah, let's just do some non-spoilery thoughts for people who haven't seen it yet. Then maybe just jump into spoilers, and you can put that banner down at the
Yeah,
bottom.
I know how to put the banner down, so I'll do that.
Because last time on the last stream you guys just did, some guy jumped in the chat and spoiled Rise of Skywalker, which made me mad. Even though I've seen it, I'm just mad for everybody else. Like, what a jerk move to jump in to spoil it.
And actually, that guy's usually a pretty good viewer.
He got banned.
Yeah, he's actually a very good viewer. So I was surprised that he did that in the previous one. But I had no idea the Tulsa riots happened. This is not spoiling anything because the whole first episode is about the Tulsa race riots in 1921. Apparently, Tulsa was considered a Midwestern Wall Street where black people thrived and were doing really well for themselves in this little enclave in Tulsa, and things were going fine. This is 1921. Contrary to popular belief, I was not alive at that time, but I do study American history, and I don't remember ever hearing about this. And this is what sets the tone for the whole show. The whole show pretty much has, I mean, I could have watched any television show about racism and slavery and stuff, and I would just go, I get it. I understand that it happened. It explains a lot. But this show was so well done and well crafted that it hit me in the heart harder than anything else. And it's probably between me and my therapist why, but maybe I'm working it out live on the air. But it was so well done, well choreographed. Every actor was on the mark, and there were no, I'm just talking about Watchmen as a whole, there were no holes in any of the plots. It all was cohesive and flowed well from episode to episode. It kind of, what I was upset about was that it was episodic and I had to wait a whole week to see the next episode, which I can't say very much about television because usually you can either binge it or I don't care enough where I'm just like, okay, I'll just wait till next week. How do you guys feel about the show overall?
Well, it really shows that it took 2 years to make this show. They put a lot of thought and effort and care into it, whether it's the writing, it's the acting, it's the directing, the composing. You can just really tell that Damon Lindelof and his writers revered Watchmen, but they weren't so slavishly devoted to the comic that they weren't. They actually took risks. The biggest complaint against Rise of Skywalker is they took no risks. Where I feel like with Watchmen, they actually revered the source material, but took risks and actually enriched the source material. Because I walked into the show worried that it would detract from the original book, but it actually makes it a much deeper reading experience. I'm actually rereading Watchmen right now, and it's making it so much better for me. It actually elevates the source material, which is already amazing, which is already fantastic. It actually gives it more of a fleshed out backstory in a way, because you understand more about a particular character who I don't want to spoil right now, who isn't really given a lot of time in the book, but he is important to a couple scenes. So I think it really makes the original Watchmen that much richer, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And I loved a lot of TV this year. The Boys, Barry, Mindhunter, unbelievable. But Watchmen was by far my favorite.
You see a lot more television than I do. I just don't get a chance. I read so much. I want to see The Boys. I still need to finish Legion season 3. But I've never been so captivated. Lou, what were your feelings on it overall?
It's from just the craftsman level, it's impressive. I mean, just a lot of times we see that a lot of these writers and these TV shows now, they'll set things up and you don't really get a payoff. And I was checking off the stuff in my head and like going through episode 1, and I'm like, well, what about, no, that paid off. Well, what about that? No, that paid off as well. Like again, we just finished talking about Star Wars, and the big fault for me for Star Wars is it didn't feel like they had a roadmap for all 3 films. You can watch is it 9 episodes? It's 9 episodes, right?
Yeah.
All 9 episodes of Watchmen from, let's say you binge it in one day. There is a clear roadmap of where this story is going to start. This story is going to end here. This is how we are going to get here. And this is where all the characters are going to go. And this is how this is going to work. And this is how this is going to play out. And really, it's impressive. It truly, truly is impressive. It's the best thing that I've seen on TV this year, including like The Boys and everything else that we've seen. It's the best thing by far. And it's not even close to anything else that's come out this year. And the thing going into it, everybody was really gun shy about it. Like, oh, you can't touch Watchmen. Like, that's the thing that everybody has been saying even for years before Watchmen. The Zack Snyder stuff, which, the movie, they're guilty.
It's better than people say it is. I think if it had been released, if it had been released a couple of years ago, I think it'd be loved a lot more. It came out at a time where comic book movies hadn't arisen to prominence yet. Yeah. It came out a year after Dark Knight, which kind of opened the floodgates for comic book movies, and Iron Man as well. If it came out like 2 or 3 years ago, I think it'd be a lot more well received.
Agreed. It's if you go back right now, Jess, I actually urge you check out the extended cut of it. It's long.
The director's cut that's like 4 hours long.
Yeah, it's long, but it's good. It's really good. He translates it pretty well. And this feels to me like a natural progression of the comic, because this is based on the comic, and I can see all of these characters ending up here from where the comic leads off. And that to me is the most impressive thing. Some people say, oh, I don't see these characters and all this other stuff like landing here. And I'm like, no, that to me, this all fits really well into the universe and it makes sense.
And the acting across the board is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Regina King, Tim Blake Nelson, Don Johnson, Louis Gossett Jr. for that final episode alone should get an Emmy for Best Supporting Actor.
No.
And Jeremy Irons, who's having the time of his life.
Every single scene he is in, and he is phenomenal. He was the standout for me in this. Jeremy Irons is, because like casting Jeremy Irons as Ozymandias, I was like, that is great fucking casting.
Yeah.
And he knocks it out of the park.
And I think the original Watchmen is told from such a cold and impersonal. It's told from a cold and impersonal way. It kind of keeps you at an arm's length. While this TV show is much more visceral and personal. It's like Alan Moore kind of pushes you away, while Lindelof and his writers and the actors kind of grab you by the hand and walk you through this story. I just think it's much more personal and engaged me on an emotional level, while as the comic just engaged me on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
I
agree with that.
It's not as cold and as impersonal as it's almost like Dr. Manhattan's telling this comic. It's so cold and impersonal, but I still love it. I just think they're so different, even though they tie in together very well.
Yeah. So those are our overall feelings. We all felt it was fabulous television, and this is probably the point where we're going to have to start spoiling it, because now we got to tell you why it was fab. We thought, and this is our opinions only, we're open to other opinions, even though they're wrong. We're open to other opinions that say that it's not, whatever. Or, you can tell us what your favorite episode was, why you didn't like certain things. But yeah, it emotionally captured me, because I came on here and pretty much vomited out my whole life story. And Joe Chip, you still haven't answered my question about why you're tired of white guilt. But for me to come on and say that is, I'm not trying to make anybody feel sorry for me, make anybody think I'm an idiot, make anybody think about anything. I'm trying to elevate Watchmen as a show to say how it emotionally impacted me, to make me feel those feelings that I had actually never felt before.
I agree.
And, holy smoke, Psycho Cleveland's in there.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Cycle Cleveland, very good to see you.
Looks like he loves the Watchmen movie and the TV show.
Yeah. Well, here's something good. This shows that Cycle Cleveland is not just somebody that yells at us in all caps. Perhaps my favorite aspect of Watchmen is how well it used the telling of origin stories as plot devices to advance the story. That's well said.
That's part of the spoilers too, so maybe we should put up the spoiler banner.
Okay. Oh boy, I love.
There's a particular origin story that really delves into spoilers.
Okay, let's see.
Are we talking about episode 6?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh wait, sorry, Joe Chip. I just a sec. I'm doing a banner here.
That episode alone could have been one whole movie for me, and I would have been just giddy.
That was a great episode.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for Jess to put up the spoiler banner before I say anything else, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Spoilers. Scroll across bottom. Add banner. Ticker. There we go. Here's spoilers, right?
So we're going to talk about episode 6 right now, right? Is that the plan?
Before we go on, I'm glad Barnacle Blake mentioned it. Abar is the name, the last name of the main character. Abar, the first Black Superman, is actually is the name of a superhero in a blaxploitation film in the 1970s.
Yeah, you were the first one to point that out to me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So remember, she got her name Sister Night off of
a blaxploitation film.
Right, mm-hmm. That was part of her origin story at episode 7, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice little touch. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's where he got the last name from.
Oh, well, here's Joe Chip. I apologize. I didn't see your answer. I said, I don't think you constantly apologize for racism you are not responsible for. Okay, that's a good point. I can see why you might get tired of that then. This was my first experience with it, so I'm not sure how to deal with it.
I think overall you're just saying this show really made you not just think, but evaluate yourself, which is a sign of a powerful TV show.
Right.
I think it's basically what you're trying to say.
That is what I'm trying to say, yeah. Yeah.
Which is hard for a TV show or a movie or a comic, any medium to do. And that's a sign of good TV, that it makes you think not just about yourself, but your interaction with other people, which this show definitely made me do. And we'll get into that later on.
Here's something that makes me feel good. It is Christmas time. OmniDog giving us back-to-back Christmas live streams, so generous in this time of giving. Peace and love. Thank you, Jake of Time. So spoilers. So now we're free to talk about out of that race riot. If I recall correctly, we get the grandfather as a little boy.
Yeah, the grandfather of Angela Abar.
Grandfather of Angela Abar.
And she doesn't know that that's her grandfather until a couple episodes in.
Right, which is let me just say something about the world building of this. I think the world they built for Tulsa was remarkable, and for Redford to become president, and for the word Redfordations to become a word. I noticed that just the world building itself, I noticed that all the cars, even though it's supposed to be 2019, and it's an alternate universe, but all the cars seem to be electric. You didn't hear any motors going except for the sound of like an electric car. Whenever the cars are moving, even the trucks, everything, the truck the lettuce head falls out of, which I want to follow up on, seems to be not like a jalopy, but they all just like, and then when I'm getting a little bit ahead, but when she can put her DNA in the machine, or the DNA in the machine, and it tells her who the DNA was, and they built this whole world around Tulsa, and the riots, and how it affects the rest of the show, that sorry, I just saw Cycle Cleveland's latest.
Barnacle Blake has a funny comment. That was pretty much the only thread of story that wasn't picked back up was Lube Man.
what was the deal with the loop? He slides into a grate and then
That was such a great scene, but it made no sense and didn't really tie back in. I mean, comparatively, that's not really that big of a deal, but that was one thread that people are complaining about that wasn't
That
resolved.
they didn't follow up on?
Yeah, that I heard a lot of people say they think that Lube Man was Lori Blake's FBI partner / assistant. The really tall, skinny guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have said that, but yeah, they didn't really pick that back up. I don't really care that much, but like Lou said, they pretty much resolved everything besides that.
Yeah. So we've got the grandfather. His backstory is set up. His origin story is set up in episode 1
Yes.
as wandering around off side of the battlefield, although his parents get killed, with the note on him that says, "Take care of this boy."
Mhm.
Yeah, then it turns out that he actually becomes Hooded Justice in episode 6, which was I did not see that coming at all.
I didn't either.
And it happens because he is a police officer, and the other police officers who are white in his precinct don't like him, and he also starts looking in to these certain conspiracy that's going on with a group called Cyclops, right? Like this. There's an underground group of white supremacists in Tulsa back in, I guess that's probably the late 30s, like 1939.
Yeah.
And so he uncovers that. He goes to some of his fellow police officers, and they end up lynching him from a tree, but they don't kill him. And they say, next time we're going to kill you if you keep interfering in our personal business. And so he's walking throughout the city streets just traumatized and trying to process this. He has the noose around his neck, and he sees this woman and this man being attacked. So he puts that hood on it they put on over his head. He puts holes in it, and he beats the crap out of these guys who are attacking this couple. And that leads him to become Hooded Justice. But he knows that people will still be able to see that he's black underneath the eye hole. So he actually paints his face white right here. And so everyone thinks he's white because he knows back in that time, people won't take him seriously.
Yep.
And that people won't follow him. But actually, Hooded Justice, who's a black man, is the first superhero in this universe. And he kickstarts it for everybody else, which I thought was phenomenal. That was amazing.
What's interesting is his origin mirrors, in a lot of ways, Superman's origin, where you have a young man or a kid who his parents are sending him away from a dying area, from a dying planet, and he becomes the first superhero. So Abar, him being, becoming the first superhero in this universe, that mirrors Superman's story in a really interesting and poignant way.
So who's his Lana Lang?
I guess his wife.
I'm just making it up.
He's gay, so
I know he's bisexual, which we find out, which was how you predict that. I don't.
Is he gay or bisexual?
Well,
they never really established that.
Married well, okay, he could be gay, and he hid it by having another child, getting married and having another child. Okay, I mean he's at least bisexual because he marries and has a kid.
Yes,
but
he's also having an affair with Captain White Guy or whatever that guy's name
Captain Metropolis.
Captain Metropolis.
And that guy really shows his true colors whenever he won't help Will Reeves, whenever he uncovers this conspiracy, which is basically using a screen projector in a movie theater to pretty much hypnotize black people into killing each other. That was Cyclops' plan back in the late 30s. And Will uncovers this, but the other Minutemen won't help him because they don't care.
Right. They want to fight.
Take care of it themselves. Right. They just don't care about it at all. Captain Metropolis is like, you're on your own. Take care of it if you want to.
Yeah.
That was just an episode where I didn't see that coming at all. And also, in the end of the first episode, Angela's captain, one of her closest friends, is hung from a tree. Mm-hmm. And so it's a question, and her grandfather pretty much comes out and says, I did this. But how could a 105-year-old man in a wheelchair hang him? Well, it turns out he has that technology from Cyclops, and he hypnotizes him into hanging himself. That, again, was a great touch.
Now, what episode did that happen in? When we saw
the episode, I think it was episode 6, wasn't it?
Okay.
I can't remember which exact episode it's in, but they show that after they established the hypnotizing technology.
Right.
He had that little flashlight. He flashed him in the face, and he makes him hang himself from the tree because he knows that he is actually 7th Cavalry / Cyclops, because 7th Cavalry has actually infiltrated Cyclops through Senator, I forget what his name is, through the senator who wants to become Dr. Manhattan, essentially.
It's Keen.
Is Senator Keen?
Yeah, Keen. It's the guy who made the Keen X.
Oh, right. You're right.
Grandson, something.
Right.
Wait, I had a question about the original Watchmen. Now, okay, so it was the nostalgia episode, which I think we agree. Okay, we don't agree because I haven't asked you guys yet. But for me, that was the best episode out of the 9.
It was second best for me. Episode 8 was by far my favorite.
Same.
What happened in episode 8?
Dr. Manhattan and Angela's love story.
Oh yeah, that was great.
I've never seen a TV episode explore time in that way, and it totally blew me away. One of the greatest love stories I've ever seen on screen. And it's Dr. Manhattan, which that shouldn't work as well as it has.
No. It was mirroring that issue in the comic where Dr. Manhattan is present in all aspects of time.
Right.
And he's talking about, I am here right now. And I am here right now. And he explains that is how he perceives time all at once.
And the moment that really cinched it for me, this is the best season of television this year, was whenever she was saying, how can you truly love me if you don't have a moment where you fall in love with me? Over the course of their 10-year marriage, he loved her. But the moment didn't happen until he saw that she was going to risk her life for him with 7th Cavalry. Because he experiences every moment at the same time. So the moment he loves her doesn't happen until 10 years into their marriage, but he still feels it all the way back then.
Right.
That just blew me away.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. Just the way they talk about time in that way. And this show has so many different themes, so many different messages. And by far the one that hit me the most was relational tragedy. Just because he walks into a bar in episode 8 and meets Angela in Saigon 10 years in the past, and he pretty much tells her, hey, we're going to fall in love and we're going to be married, but it's going to end in tragedy. And she says, well, why would I be with you if I know it's going to end in tragedy? And he says this one line, this one question that's really stood out to me. By definition, don't all relationships end in tragedy?
That was remarkable.
Yes, because this episode reminds us that love is a magnificent and worthwhile tragedy. Because eventually, every relationship that we have is going to end in tragedy of some sort, whether it's death, divorce, betrayal, estrangement. But this shouldn't cause us to push people away. It should cause us to bring people closer and treasure those moments that we have with them. Because eventually, with my wife and I, one of us is going to die first, and one of us is going to experience unbelievable tragedy and grief. But that shouldn't cause us to just push each other away. We should truly cherish the time that we have together and make the most of it. Because Dr. Manhattan goes into this relationship knowing it's going to end in tragedy, but the whole journey is worth the painful destination.
Yeah.
And that was so moving for me.
Well, somebody, Damon Lindelof or somebody else, wrote that line, and that was brilliant writing. Don't all relationships end in some kind of tragedy?
Yes. And
this is kind of a sidebar, but it also is why this show was so great, is the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
The soundtrack was
the Nine Inch Nails guys, right?
Yeah, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Yeah.
Remarkable soundtrack that went through the whole season, all 9 episodes. It was haunting. It was beautiful. It went with every scene really well. And it wasn't one of those screechy violin things, but it was menacing and powerful on its own. I felt like now I was fortunate that I managed to get the 3 albums from back in November. I pre-ordered and I bought the first album just because I just liked the first. I didn't even know there were going to be 3 albums, but I pre-ordered the other 2. And those things are going for crazy money on eBay now. It's stupid. This is the reason why you shouldn't get into a hobby like mine.
I'm listening to it on Spotify. Just do that. You can't get them.
That's how I should have. I mean, I'm glad I got them for reasonably cheap. because they were just $25 each. But people are asking a crazy amount of money for these things.
Good thing you got them before your vinyl embargo.
What's that?
Good thing you got them before your mandated vinyl embargo in January.
That's right.
Under the wire. You're like Lube Man going through the grate. You just made it through.
I just made it there. Got him in November, but I mean, and I would argue that is the worst way to listen to this music. The way I'm going to listen to it, LP, where you listen for 15 minutes and then you flip it over. You're much better off doing it on Spotify, going from season 1 to season 3, just listening to it all straight through. I've got it the worst way on vinyl. I mean, the only way it could be worse is cassette, and I don't even own a cassette player, so that's how it would be worse. Or maybe 8-track. Vinyl.
Lord, the price for these.
Oh, I know.
What are they, Lou?
God, I'm seeing prices like $75 for just one.
Whoa.
You're seeing somebody asking $75 for number 1?
For Volume 2, Watchmen Volume 2 vinyl, $75.
Okay, that's number 1's going for like $150.
I haven't found number 1 yet. Volume 3, $55.
What's the retail? Like 25 or 30 something?
They were $25.
Okay.
Volume 3, Volume 2. I don't
I
even
would love
see.
to get into vinyl, but that just seems like way too expensive of a hobby for me.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Michael Cleveland is saying that Reznor stuff frequently sells out because he never presses enough.
$159, $150 for Volume 1.
Yeah, and if you look at sold, the sold section, that's what they're selling for.
Good God, Jess, you bought one of these?
Not for $150. For $25. But I mean, I like it enough that I don't want to flip it. But I mean, if I need Christmas money, I guess I could flip them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Both me and Lou agree that episode 8 was our favorite, and while Jess's favorite was episode 6.
Yeah. What happens in between? What's episode 7?
That's whenever she wakes up from the nostalgia in Lady True's building.
Oh, and that's when she smashes her husband's head?
Yes, at the very end, and she pulls out that chip thing that whatever Dr. Manhattan, whatever Ozymandias gave Dr. Manhattan.
Okay, we're sort of getting all over the place. Let's try and get back to the beginning. And
But it goes all over the place, so it's kind of hard because they go back and forth so much.
Yeah, they do. But it doesn't feel messy at all. It feels.
No, I didn't mean that as a critique. It just goes back and forth throughout time a lot, so it's kind of hard.
No,
to
you're right.
everything straight.
But that's a good point. That's a good point, though, because it does go back and forth, but it's not hard to follow, and it helps make the story better. Is these going back and forth points when she's little and experiencing the eruption and the explosion in Hanoi, or another really good episode. I can't remember what it was, what number it was, maybe 5, when we see Mirror Guy's Looking Glass.
That's what Lori calls him.
Right, Mirror Guy. When we see his origin left naked in the fun house.
That was great.
Was that number 5? Because
that was 5.
Yeah, because he experienced the giant squid dropping down that killed 3 million people. He was protected because he stayed in the fun house, which was all mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how he got his powers?
He doesn't really have any powers. He's just a cop.
He's just a cop. He doesn't have powers yet.
Did you know that mask he has is all CGI?
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I watched a little featurette from HBO yesterday about Watchmen CGI. His whole mask is CGI. Tim Blake Nelson just wore a green mask.
But he is able to tell when he pulls the mask on. He is able to tell
who's lying or not.
The truth and who's lying.
He never really established that as a superpower. It was more just he has like he's good at telling people if they're lying or not.
He's good at reading.
Maybe I missed that, but I never took it as a superpower.
Well, I thought of it as a power he had.
And he was almost like the stand-in for Rorschach in this season. Like he even eats. At one point, he even rolls up his mask to his nose and eats baked beans.
Yeah,
get Herm like Rorschach.
Well, the reason he does all that is because the mask and everything he wears is pretty much made out of like the anti-nuclear stuff or whatever.
Right, it's like a tinfoil theory.
Yeah, it's basically wearing tinfoil.
to
Even
keep
his hat, his baseball cap he always wears. He has that lining, his baseball cap, so the squids can't take over his mind.
And even when he finds out the squids are fake, when he finally finds that out by watching the videotape or the CD, DVD, he had early detection stuff for the squids coming back.
Mm-hmm.
He realizes that the squid wasn't real and that it didn't have any actually projection power. And so he gets rid of the stuff that was in his house, but then he goes back and brings it back in anyway. Like he's still not 100% sure that it's right.
Let's talk about the big reveal. Did you guys see that coming?
Dr. Manhattan, you mean?
Yeah.
I really didn't know.
That Dr. Manhattan was her husband?
Yeah.
Looking back, I should have known because he was so plain and vanilla. Like I remember I listened to the official Watchmen podcast, which interviews Damon Lindelof, and you should all listen to it. It was excellent. And he pretty much he didn't tell Yahya Abdul-Mateen II that he was Dr. Manhattan until after the pilot. And he kept telling him between takes, just tone it down, like have less personality, be less interesting. But the guy was like, why? He's like, you're pretty much making me like not a good actor right now. But Dr. Manhattan is so subdued. He's not emotional. He's very at a level 1 of emotion. And so he had to keep being subdued. And so the whole time Cal was on screen, I'm like, yeah, he's pretty boring. But Dr. Manhattan's a pretty boring character from an emotional standpoint usually. And that's why it worked. Looking back, it made sense. And it made sense how Angela survived the White Knight when all the cops were killed. Because remember, she was shot at. He saved her. It makes more sense how she was able to survive that because Ozymandias says in a situation of peril, your powers might just snap back on unintentionally.
I had a question about that because they show in the White Knight scene a second gunman aiming right for her, and it was left unanswered how he didn't shoot her again. And it finally gets answered. Like everything gets answered. Everything in this show gets answered.
Besides Lube Man.
Besides Lube Man. I totally forgot about it.
The great mystery of 2019, Lube Man. Yeah, I did not see it coming. Like, it didn't know that. I don't know how you could have.
I don't know how anybody thinks this show was predictable.
I don't think that's people's complaint about the show. I haven't seen that at least.
There was a big thing on the Omnibus group, so maybe this is the only guy on the planet that thought it was predictable.
Oh, I remember this guy.
Yeah, you went in and had it out with him.
Yeah.
About how predictable it was. And I thought, this is the least predictable show I've ever seen. Things came up and I had absolutely... Now, I tend to blank out and try not to connect pieces when I see a show, movie or TV. I don't want to figure things out, so that may be my kind of conceit when I go in. I don't try and put things together. But every reveal in this, besides the big reveal, there was tons of reveals in this. I never saw any of it coming.
Here's the thing. Just because a small group of people could predict it doesn't mean it's predictable. Because no matter what movie or TV show you're watching, there's going to be a couple people who can predict what's going to happen. But it doesn't mean it's predictable. I think the vast majority of people didn't guess it. You know what I mean? Just because several people predicted it doesn't mean that's so obvious. But I also didn't feel cheated. At least I didn't. I felt like there were some clues hidden throughout the episodes preceding it. I'm really excited to rewatch this series and see all the different breadcrumbs that lead to that reveal.
I will definitely buy this when it comes out on whatever format there is in 6 months.
Well, this is a day one buy for me when this comes out in 4K in a few months.
Yeah. I have a 4K TV, but I don't have the $9,000 worth of other equipment that I need to have to play 4K DVDs. I got the TV, but I don't have I guess I'm going to have to break down and get what you have, Lou. So I'll have you tell me exactly what to buy.
But my favorite moment of the series didn't even happen in episode 6 or episode 8. It happened at the end of episode 9. This is after 7th Cavalry's plan comes out, where Senator Keene will become Dr. Manhattan, but it turns out the entire time Lady True wanted that to happen, and she teleports them to the Millennium Clock, and she wants to become Dr. Manhattan, and Senator Keene is pretty much vaporized to mush and blood.
Which we knew was going to happen because it was a freak occurrence for Dr. Manhattan to exist at all anyway. You can't duplicate that.
They melted down all these like lithium batteries or something and captured him in some kind of cage. And Senator Keene's wearing that weird Manhattan thong, the black thong, and he gets in there and he gets melted. And Lady True is trying to become Dr. Manhattan, but then Ozymandias, Looking Glass, and Laurie are transported to Karnak by Dr. Manhattan. And there, this is brilliant because the entire time Ozymandias, Adrian Veidt, has been sending little tiny squids to Earth to make it seem like they're still an alien threat. So they're still on Earth. But he says, I have to soften them in the Earth's atmosphere, otherwise they'll just be like bullets from a Gatling gun. And so he doesn't soften them. He lets them be like ice cold, and they start going down like bullets on Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it goes through Lady True's hand, starts killing people, and they destroy the Millennium Clock. Now, that was a brilliant scene.
I'm still not clear on one thing. Was the Millennium Clock built to turn her into Dr. Manhattan? Lady True? What was the purpose of the Millennium Clock?
I thought it
transfer. Yeah, my understanding was it was to transfer Manhattan's powers into her.
Right. Because I forget what she said. The reason why Keene melted, there was a particular reason. I forget what she said. It was a scientific mumbo jumbo reason. I don't really know. But yeah, that whole scene was great. But my favorite scene is after this. Angela's running through Tulsa with that car door so that the little squids don't kill her, and she runs into the theater where her grandfather saw Bass Reeves, the black sheriff, on silent film back in the 1920s. And he pretty much reveals to her that, hey, this whole thing that I've been doing with Lady True, Dr. Manhattan came to me 10 years ago and told me to do it. And he pretty much goes through his origin story with Angela because she saw it with the nostalgia pills. And I just love that scene where he says to her, you know, the hood, when I put it on, did you feel what I felt? And she says, anger. And he says, that's what I thought it was too, but it wasn't. It was fear and hurt. You can't heal under a mask. Wounds need air.
That was a brilliant thing.
That was the best. I think Louis Gossett Jr. deserves an Emmy for that scene. He was unbelievable in that scene. That was so moving to me. And it made me think about my favorite superhero, Batman. Jess and I have our own show about that on OmniDog's Vault, Saturdays in the Batcave.
That's right.
Batman can't truly heal from his trauma by being Batman because you can't mask your pain. You have to expose it to truly heal. And Bruce can never really do that. And that just shows everyone in the show has hidden pain, whether it's Looking Glass with being traumatized with PTSD from seeing 3 million people get murdered, whether it's Laurie having all this stuff happen to her, Angela with her parents being killed. Everyone has pain, and they're trying to deal with it in the worst way possible. And many of them are trying to hide it under a mask.
That's important that you said in the worst way possible. That's exactly right.
And Will Reeves is saying, that's what I did too. But I had to stop becoming Hooded Justice to deal with my pain in a true way. That if you truly want to heal, you just have to be brutally honest and drag your issues into the light. Stuffing it down and not addressing it isn't going to help. And that is also pointing towards one of the major themes of the show, which is race. We, as a country, we can't deal with the racial tension by ignoring it. We have to have honest and awkward, uncomfortable conversations to move forward. That's why I talk about Oklahoma is so important. Hey, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. We have to know about these kind of things to be able to move forward. I just thought the whole show was about unveiling the truth, no matter how painful it is.
Yeah.
Being honest about your pain. I think that scene was what moved me the most. It's really made me think a lot. And in the official Watchmen podcast, Damon Lindelof said something that's made me think about it so much. And he said, anger is fear or sadness in disguise. And that really just hit me because I'm someone who can struggle with anger sometimes, and I always wonder where it comes from. But it made me realize that a lot of times I'm just afraid of something, and so I lash out. Or
Right.
I'm sad about something. I don't know how to express my frustration. So again, I lash out. So anger is really just we're afraid and we're sad, and we don't deal with it in the right way.
Underlying defects of character. This is just a quick thing on AA. Underlying your defects of character, whatever they are, anger, prejudice, short-tempered. There's a whole list of character inventory defects. Everybody agrees that what's underlying everybody's character defects is fear, which goes to right what you were saying, especially when it's anger.
Yeah.
Me, fear is when I get angry is fear of being wrong. I hate being wrong, and the only other person that matters to is my wife. So whenever she catches me being wrong, or my daughter, that's when my anger comes out, and that's what I've had to do the most work on myself, is accepting the fact that I can be wrong and not being fearful or insecure of being wrong. Just embrace it and move on. And that I think that Damon Lindelof, the brilliance of this script, that there's so many moments that are so true to real life. Moving racial prejudice into the light, moving your hurt and your fear into the light so it can heal. These are big concepts.
Yeah. And Lindelof has really been obsessed with that for a long time, with Lost, with The Leftovers, which, Jess, you should watch. That's a great show. But he really builds upon it in this show. I think he does it the best out of all those three shows in Watchmen. An exploration of sadness and suffering and how we move forward from it.
What is The Leftovers about?
So 2% of the world's population, I believe, all of a sudden just disappears. And how does this one small community in New York deal with it? And it expands from there and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Season 1 is good, but seasons 2 and 3 are amazing.
2% of the population are gone?
I believe that's the number.
How you can even notice that?
Oh no, you do.
Oh, you do. It shows you why.
Yeah, they establish it. You do notice it.
You need to watch it,
Okay.
Jeff. Maybe Gio can send you one of those magic links.
I've heard lots of good stuff about Leftovers. So the thing I got to do is I got to finish
The best part is the second season. The second season, the major plot of it involves perfect strangers with Balky and Larry, which is great.
What's that?
There's a subplot in season 2 with Balky and Larry from Perfect Strangers.
Oh my God, I love that show.
Larry from Perfect Strangers even shows up, the actor. That was great. It's just a great show. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but seasons 2 and 3 especially are phenomenal.
So it's 3 seasons?
3 seasons, and it wraps up perfectly. That's a great ending.
And where can I find it? Like Hulu?
It's on HBO, unfortunately, for you.
I'll figure it out.
Like I said, magic links.
Yeah. That is hilarious. I remember Larry. Larry's in one of my favorite movies ever.
What's that?
Hero Tool, My Favorite Year.
I never heard of that.
Well, that was made before you were born. Way before you were born. I'd say it was probably 1982. It is a great movie. It's based on Richard Benjamin's recollection of what life was like when he helped make television back in the 50s, when everything was live. And it's his recollection. Richard Benjamin became a big director for a while in the 80s and 70s and 90s, somewhere in that period, probably the 80s. And he worked on Your Show of Shows, which was a groundbreaking TV show back in the 50s. And he started out as like an errand boy, and it had Sid Caesar in it. Do you guys recognize that name?
No, sorry.
Holy smoke.
29 years old, Jeff.
History Television? Do you know Milton Berle?
Yes, I'm 29 years old. What do you think you're saying to me? You're talking a different language.
I'm saying you need to see my favorite year. It's got Peter O'Toole in it, who's the best ever. It's
Lou, I
hilarious.
always tell Jess, sometimes I forget that he's not a silver-haired 29-year-old like me. There's moments like this that make it makes me remember how much older he is than me.
Damn
Let me
it.
ask you guys this. What were your favorite Easter eggs in this show? Because there were a ton.
Oh, yeah. Let's go over some of those.
What do you think, Lou? Do you have any?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me was just how, and this isn't really an Easter egg, but like how they were able to just tie in that small line of Robert Redford being president, and they branched out so much out of just that one thing where you get the Redford. I don't even know.
Redfordations?
How is it?
Redfordations?
Redfordations, where you get like the Redfordations, and you get how he's such a liberal that everybody's doing electric cars, and oh my god, so good.
I remember listening to that podcast I keep referring to that Lindelof had his writers sit down for several days and just say, all right, Robert Redford is president, what would happen? And they all went off on their own and came up with all these different things that he would do. Like, again, the world building in this show is unbelievable. They spent so much time thinking about what this world would look like. And I think my favorite Easter eggs were just the Night Owl appearances with how, because Dan Dryberg doesn't actually appear in the show physically. He's in prison for vigilantism. But the Tulsa police actually have an owl ship.
Yeah.
They used it to take down a 7th Cavalry plane, which was awesome, with that flamethrower. And again, it makes more sense going back because Judd Crawford took down the 7th Cavalry, even though he is 7th Cavalry, so he could cover up their mess. Because he knew that if there was anybody else alive to talk to, they would talk. And so looking back on it, it makes more sense.
Oh. Was that in
Did you catch that they were?
That was first episode, yeah.
Because he gets
still alive.
First episode, right?
Because Judd Crawford dies at the end of the first episode. Don.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Lou?
Did you catch that? Did you catch that they were obviously parodying Scott Snyder? Not Zack Snyder's like movie style with like the slow down and speed up killing and how over the top and crazy it was. Like in the there's a documentary that's playing about Hooded Justice.
Oh, Minutemen.
And they show clips of it, and the bits of clips that they show, it's just shot like a Zack Snyder movie. How it's like slow motion and it's over the top and super bloody and gory and stuff like. I thought that was great.
You mean whenever he's in the interrogation room with the cops?
Who?
Hooded Justice. And remember that they have, because I listened to Lindelof in that podcast, and he says the Watchmen graphic novel has Black Freighter, and that's a little story that's going along in the book, while this show has the Minutemen documentary, which actually isn't even true.
Oh, yeah.
The Minutemen documentary says Hooded Justice was a big white guy, which obviously isn't the case because Will Reeves was actually Hooded Justice. And there's a couple of things with Hooded Justice as this big, tall, white guy. And I never really noticed that, Lou, that they were poking fun of Zack Snyder. I'll have to go back and focus on that whenever I watch the TV show again.
Well, like what's an example of their specific example of I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen all Zack Snyder movies except for Watchmen now. So what's an example then, Lou, of slowing down and speeding up?
Have you seen 300?
Yeah.
Okay, so in 300, there is Zack Snyder's style. He's kind of ditched it since then because I think he was getting a lot of crap for it. Zack Snyder's style at the time was he would show you like this a really cool action scene. He'd slow it down, and then he'd have a moment where like it climaxes and like a big action moment happens. He speeds that moment up, and then once that moment ends, he slows it down again when it's coming out of it.
Oh.
It's like J.J. Abrams in the lens flare, which he gave up.
He gave up that too. Yeah, I was looking for it too, and I'm like, no, there's no lens flare in the new Star Wars.
Lens flare. Man, you guys are analytical.
What were you saying, Jess?
I was saying I love you both. You're so analytical. I never picked up on any lens flare from JJ.
Oh, here's the thing, Jess. You're able to enjoy things more than we are. You enjoy Lifetime more than we do.
My favorite thing about the new Star Trek is that it looks like it's an Apple store instead of the.
Jess, did you have any Easter eggs you liked?
Sorry?
Did you have any Easter eggs in the show that you liked?
You know, I only picked up on one, and that was the last one where they go into the theater and things get so disrupted that the theater marquee says Dr. M. That's the only Easter egg I picked up on.
And whenever you guys, that one scene where Ozymandias is on that moon of I think it's Neptune, or is it Saturn? What's it called? That moon called again?
Ios?
I can't remember. Wherever he has all the bodies of his followers on there, and it says, "Help me." We only see D. I thought that was Dr. Manhattan.
I thought so too.
It turns out it's his daughter, who is Lady True, and her mother actually went into his office in Karnak and got a vial of his sperm and injected herself. And she actually had Lady True, which is actually Ozymandias' daughter. And she comes to him and says, "Hey, I need help. I need your money to fund me." He says, "I'll never call you daughter, and I'll never help you." And so he actually asked her for help after Dr. Manhattan teleports him to this community that he has made, which isn't really paradise because Ozymandias needs to have a problem to solve. And there's no problems here. So he creates this narrative for himself with the Game Master. And actually, that whole thing, all that stuff that's going on, he actually orchestrated that to bide time for himself until Lady True came to save him. And at the end, when he killed the Game Master, he was like, "Was I a good opponent?" He's like, "No." See, I love that part. He was like, "No, you sucked." He's like, "But it was fun while it lasted." Essentially.
Well, that's what I thought was interesting, was they kept presenting him with a cake for happy anniversary. And I didn't quite pick up on that. Is that happy anniversary? I mean, almost every episode he'd have one or two anniversaries, and I don't think
it was happening over a period of time. Like that was happening before all these other things in the show happened.
Okay.
So he was there for a while, and he even says, "I'm writing a play." And you think he's talking about the play that he puts on the stage. He's talking about the Game Master. That whole thing, he orchestrated it. Him being imprisoned, him being on trial. That's why he looks so bored. He wrote it. He wrote the script. He's just biding his time and trying to entertain himself, but he's so bored. He's so beyond all this. And I love that reveal when Lady True finally saves him and has that ship. She makes him stand like this and turns him into a gold statue. And he's actually there in episode 4 as a gold statue.
Yeah, he's there the whole time.
Right.
That was what?
Angela said, "Why is he so old?" Because that's him when he's older. That was so cool.
And I thought that was weird too when I first saw that episode. I'm like, yeah, how does she know how he looks like so much older? And then he's there the whole freaking time.
Again, this show is just, whenever I watch it again, I'm going to get so much more out of it. Because now that I know what to look for, so much was satisfied for me. So much was picked up. I feel like they just really outdid themselves with this show. Do you guys have any critiques at all since we've been lavishing on the praise? Any critiques?
There was no atmosphere on the ship when. Oh wait, that's Star Wars. I started this off by saying it was the best TV show I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of TV. I'm not going to play the old guy card, except to say that I've experienced a lot of television, and this was the most fun and most involved. Most emotionally impacted me was this show. It didn't leave any questions unanswered, but it didn't force feed you the answers. It didn't cram anything in that didn't need to be there. There was nothing in there that didn't need to be in there. It all served a purpose, so there were no extraneous issues that needed to be dealt with. I felt like it flowed perfectly, and I really want the DVD to come out so I can watch it again, because now with this conversation, and maybe by listening to that podcast you were talking about, I never listened to podcasts, but I'm willing to listen to that one.
It deepened my enjoyment of the show and made me think about it even more.
Yeah. That's why I want to see it, because I want to have a physical copy of it, and I want to enjoy it even more, like you say, because I want to pick up on some of the Easter eggs and some of the deeper meaning. I mean, this will benefit from 2 or 3 watchings because I bet there's deeper meanings to be gleaned from it that I didn't actually pick up on.
Lou, did you have any critiques or anything that really stood out to you as that didn't work for me?
No, it's not really, to be honest. It's honestly for me been since Breaking Bad that I would say I have been this like overall since the final season of Breaking Bad that I've been this overall satisfied, where I don't really have almost any critiques on it. I mean, the characters were great, the story was great, tied up well, left it open where if they want to come back to it in a few years, which Lindelof has said that there are currently no plans for season 2, but that you never know, they might come back to it, that they can. Incredible world building. I don't have any complaints. I really don't. I loved it from beginning to end. I love the whole thing.
I really hope they don't come back for season 2.
No, I don't either.
It doesn't need it. It doesn't
I'm
need
happy with this.
The hard thing is if it's really successful and HBO wants more, and they might hire somebody else to do it. I hope they don't do that.
I won't watch it.
It doesn't need it. And the thing, if you listen, because I was listening to interviews with Lindelof, it's not like HBO just went up to him and he agreed with it right away. They've been trying to get him to do it for years, and they kept coming back to him and saying, "Look, do it. Do you want to do it now? No. Do you want to do it now? No." And then they go, "Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and give it to somebody else because if you don't want to do it, it's just going to go to somebody else." And that was really what kicked off Lindelof, where Lindelof said, if somebody's going to fuck it up, it might as well be me.
He said he's convinced that Alan Moore has put a curse on him.
After making this?
He said it was hard for him making the show because he reveres Alan Moore, and it's hard for him to believe that Alan Moore hates his guts because he hates anyone who adapts his work. He's like, I'm just convinced Alan Moore put a curse on me. Alan Moore's like a grand wizard. I don't know what his title is. He's like a wizard of some sort, or a sorcerer. I don't really know.
Was this podcast multiple podcasts or just one?
They break up the episodes into 3, so they're 3 episodes. He talked about the first 3 episodes, the second 3, then the final 3.
What is it, like an hour long each?
I'm sorry?
Are they like an hour long each?
Yeah, about that, 45 minutes, an hour. I listen to podcasts a lot while I'm driving and I'm walking my dog, and it just really perfectly complemented that.
Can you send me the name? Just text it to me?
Yeah. I'll do it right now before I forget.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna cook dinner while listening to this tonight.
Like I said, it definitely enriches the experiences and it helps you really to catch more of the themes and the messages, like the motifs and lay motifs, things like that. Say it to Jess right now.
Did you think so? How do you feel about the ending? Did she get his powers or not? Because it's left ambiguous.
Right, which is good. I'm glad it was.
But even Lindelof says, he's like, it is ambiguous, but I believe that she becomes Dr. Manhattan, essentially. Because her walking on water at the end would have just been kind of lame. I mean, that wouldn't have been lame, but it would have been a weird way to end the series. I don't think it'd be as impactful as you just... I really compare it, and he even compares it to Inception. At the end of Inception, when the top is spinning. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to spoil it. I mean, that movie was 10 years old. I don't think anyone cares anymore. When the top is spinning, you don't know if the whole thing that's going on right now is a dream or not. But even though Christopher Nolan says it was real, that he got out. But essentially, it leaves it ambiguous to some degree, but the creator says, I believe that she has his powers. Because remember at the end, Will Reeves says he was a good man, but he could have done better. And this whole series is preparing her to become a more compassionate and more helpful Dr. Manhattan. And but does anyone handle that kind of power, though? That's the question. Is anyone really up to the task of being a god to some extent?
Where do you think they could go with season 2 if they decide to come back?
I'd almost rather have them focus on a different set of characters. To be honest,
I agree.
I almost wish it was more of like a anthology series, like Fargo or True Detective, where it's like different people in the same world. I just don't really want to follow up with it. But it'd be kind of hard not to follow up with Angela if it's set in the same timeline because she's Dr. Manhattan. So.
They could move her aside and treat her as like Dr. Manhattan on Mars. Like maybe that's something Dr. Manhattans just do. They get tired of the Earth and they go elsewhere. She could be an ancillary character doing something else while they concentrated on Mirror Guy or somebody else or somebody completely new.
Well, the only character from the original graphic novel who wasn't focused on was Dan Dryberg because he's in prison. But I'm not too interested in his story because he was kind of a boring character overall.
He was Night Owl.
Yeah, Night Owl.
Yeah.
So I just don't really want a season 2. I don't even want to like fantasize about it because I just don't really have any wants. I was so satisfied by this show. I don't really have any more wants for it. I'm just like, Hollywood is terrible at letting things be what they are. Just let this be a classic and stop touching it.
But you can tell that HBO, somebody at HBO is probably knocking on his door right now and going,
yeah.
hey, how about a season 2, man? How much money do you need?
Right. I just hope they don't have somebody else come on and do it. If anyone's going to do a second season, I'd like it to be Lindelof and his writers that he had on season 1 because it was so good. But he said, I don't have a story. I don't have a message that I want to get through. So I just don't see the point. Don't force it.
Yeah, give him time. He's like, if I come up with something in a few years, maybe, but it's fine. Don't need it.
Happens when you rush a creator, like with True Detective season 2, which is a train wreck.
Oh, God.
Like that was because HBO rushed Nick Pizzolatto, whatever, I think that's his last name. They rushed him, and season 3 was a lot better because they gave him more time to ruminate. So
I would put season 3 pretty close to season 1.
I love season 3,
but it gets there.
Yeah, season 3 was great. Season 2 was an absolute train wreck because they moved him so quick, and he writes every episode himself, or he tries to. He has some people come on and help, but it was just way too. They just didn't give enough time to really let those ideas simmer and percolate in his mind. So if Lindelof does come back, which I don't want him to do, at least give him a long time to think about it and get ready. Because it took 2 years to make this show. And that's what made it so good. It wasn't rushed. So I was proven wrong. I thought the show wouldn't be good. I thought it couldn't be done, but it was done perfectly.
I had no expectations. I just started watching it when everybody said it was awesome. The first episode.
I guess there's no point in telling people to watch it right now because if you're still here, you've already watched it, hopefully.
Yeah, all the comments pretty much reflect that everybody's seen it. So yeah, I'll have to put that in the description that spoilers definitely happen. But we've had the spoiler banner going the whole time.
Yeah,
awesome.
Good job, Jess.
Thanks for reminding me about it. Well, we all agree we loved it. We had our favorite moments. We had our favorite scenes. We had our favorite characters. I can't think of anything that I can't think of anything that's been left unsaid that we wanted to see.
My one critique, it's not even much of a critique, is I feel like Looking Glass and Laurie were kind of shortchanged in the final episode.
Yeah.
They weren't given a lot of time, and I like that they turned in Adrian Veidt and arrested him, but how they captured him, they kind of conk him on the head with a wrench. That was kind of lame to me. But again, I'm just nitpicking. Like that's a small thing in comparison. I really liked Laurie in the show.
Yeah.
I really liked Wade, aka Looking Glass. And so I was hoping for maybe like 5 more minutes just for them. Just to
I liked her better in this show than I did even Legion.
Well, she was good in Fargo too.
I never saw her in Fargo.
She was in season 2.
We never made it through halfway through season 1. It was too dark for my wife. It was too dark for my wife, season 1.
Yeah, she's a great actress. Jean Smart, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a small critique in light of all the good things that I've said. So it's not really that big of a deal. It was just something I wished for a little bit more because the characters were so well realized.
Here's a great comment.
Everyone's so proud of you, Jess. Look how far you've come, Jess, with technology. Posting a stream, putting spoiler banners on. Then Omar used to make fun of you for your technology.
Oh, yeah. But I've taught him a couple things.
There you go.
Especially on this platform on StreamYard.
This old OmniDog has learned some new tricks.
That is right, buddy. And Psycho Cleveland, I'm just saying that Fargo was too dark for my wife. So if I want to follow up on it, I'm going to have to follow up on it on my own.
I had to watch this show at nighttime when my wife was asleep because Looking Glass scared her. She's like, that show's too scary. Turn it off.
Oh, really?
She hated his mask. She thought their masks were scary. My wife's not into superhero shows or anything like that. I think me and Jess have similar relationships with our wives, with their likes. They both like Downton Abbey. But I had to watch the show at nighttime. Whenever she go to bed on Sunday, I'd be like, okay, time to watch.
Yeah, well, I watched it. During the day when my wife wasn't around. So that's pretty much all we have to say, I guess. Anything else, Lou?
No, nothing for me. I loved it, and you guys should watch it if you haven't. And if you're watching this, and you haven't watched it, what are you doing?
You ruined it for yourself.
Yeah.
What a terrible way to watch the show.
Yeah, really. Well, good. Thank you to Taylor and Lou for joining me on this. Actually, almost an hour and a half talking about Watchmen. So thank you to the chat for sticking with us this whole time. Thank you to anybody out there viewing it and watching it. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Feel free to leave comments. I always respond to comments. I know Taylor's big on responding to comments. I know Lou doesn't like to respond to comments. So we won't talk about that. He won't respond, but Taylor and I will. So thank you very much. Thanks, guys. This was great. I was really happy to do this because I love the show so much, and I know you guys were into it too.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet Lou. I've been a big fan for a long time. I've been watching Omni Bros since it started, so it was cool to do a show with you.
Thank you, man. It was fun doing it with you too. We'll have to do something sometime soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, then. So, on behalf of my co-hosts, peace and love, peace and love. Thank you for tuning in.
See you guys.